breaking all units. Fire at will. Squad 2, pick your targets. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. You've got to hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. I'm hit. Where's the reinforcements?
Oh, so we're putting Snoke and Kylo Ren under the microscope today. This should be fun. Hello everyone and welcome to part 4 of my video series. So far the previous 3 parts have been very well perceived and I appreciate that my viewers understand how much effort I put into making my videos. Thank you. I want to give a huge shout out to the Fandom Collective and the amazing support from each one of its members. With the number of people I meet at a growing exponential rate daily, I'm sure that within a matter of months I'm going to lose count. Making this video series so far has been an absolute blast and I hope to make more content that you guys enjoy in the future. Now, to pick up where we last left off. In the last video we talked about Rey and why she didn't fulfill the necessary criteria for the standard portrayal of the main protagonist. Before some people here lose their shit, may I remind you that it's not a matter of gender, again, as a hero's journey applies to both men and women regardless. No discounts, no cuts, no buts. In this part, I'll go over how the main villain and evil mastermind reprise their roles in the good versus evil story and compare them to their Last Jedi counterparts. Like I said, this should be fun. The elements of main villain and evil mastermind are separate because of their properties. I mentioned that in some cases, like Magneto in the X-Men franchise, a character can embody both elements. However, the usual case is that the main villain is the poster child for the side of evil and can be replaced multiple times throughout the story, meaning multiple main villains are possible but ultimately only one evil mastermind. An example of such a structure is in the prequel trilogy, where each episode featured its own main villain under the same evil mastermind. The relationship between main villain and evil mastermind is the equivalent of the mentor and the main protagonist share, but with a slight twist. That being that the evil mastermind lacks the empathy the mentor has and uses the main villain as a tool to further his or her goal. The relationship is a facade, as the evil mastermind will not hesitate to replace the main villain if need be. The evil mastermind controls and manipulates the main villain with a promise of ruling aside one another and the temptation of power or wealth. The evil mastermind also has the ability to corrupt an individual and is usually the culprit behind the fallen hero arc. A classic example, Darth Vader. The evil mastermind operates from the shadows and the main villain carries out his or her will. It is only when the evil mastermind's hand is forced by the side of good that they come forth and unleash their full potential and power and reveal themselves. They say a story is as good as its villain, someone you love to hate. What makes the villains compelling to the audience is their ruthlessness and merciless nature, a lack of any positive emotion and empathy for others. When we are introduced to a villain, the first thing we must feel is fear and intimidation, so we know they mean business. After that follows how much you want to see them lose in the end. The factor that determines a villain's credibility is how much of a threat they are to our heroes. A villain is set to destroy all the hero cherishes the most. An example of an effective villain that incites the feelings of despair and unease to the heroes is Villain in the Expendables 2 movie. The first moment the good guys encounter him and his gang is where you can't wait for him to get his ass kicked. The villain must work up both hero and audience through taunts and arrogance, and Villain delivers that perfectly. Spoilers, he kills one of the Expendables, the youngest member in fact, by stabbing him in the heart with their own knife in an over-the-top acrobatic kick to the chest that makes you feel for the good guys and makes you determined as much as Stallone to kick ass. Never in my life have I ever hated a villain as much as Villain. I guess that's why he got that name. Villain. That's why he's so effective and works well as a villain. So in the final act of the movie when he gets killed by Stallone, the payoff is vindictive and as satisfying as you'd imagine. Can't go wrong with some old-fashioned revenge, especially in the Expendables. Nobody wants to see the good guys lose, but they also don't want to see them win without breaking a sweat. Right. Any respectable writer will invest as much story to their villains as they will do to their heroes so the audience can get invested just as much. The more fleshed out the villains are, the more we know why they are dangerous and need to be defeated, and the more interesting the story becomes. It raises the stakes and it makes us want them to be, defeated. This can also generate sympathy for a villain, however, because their ideology and motives can really get the audience to think and reflect. Something that I call the Ledger effect. The Joker. He was perfect. Fleshing out the bad guys worked well for The Empire Strikes Back, showing that the Empire is not a pushover and a force to be reckoned with.
Ready to die. Hey, listen to me, Chewie. Chewie, this won't help me. Hey, save your strength. There'll be another time. Princess, you have to take care of her.
I love you.
I know. There is no escape.
I know, I love Empire. Sue me! Vader proves that he is a worthy adversary for dismantling our heroes just like that. And that is why he is an iconic villain. The competition between villains and heroes is the deciding factor the fans need to get invested in. Now the evil mastermind, there can only be one. The one who pulls the strings and manipulates both sides with one goal. Total domination. This is the key difference from the main villain. The evil mastermind is immeasurably more evil compared to the villain. The main villain has the possibility of a redemption arc since he or she is not as treacherous. In the end, the main villain is nothing but a slave, a puppet the evil mastermind uses for their own personal gain, and once their goal is achieved, or the villain fails to carry out their whim, they are discarded and forgotten. In The Last Jedi and the sequel trilogy, the main villain is Kylo Ren, and behind him and the First Order is Supreme Leader Snoke. For a lot of fans, Kylo Ren is a blatant attempt to emulate Darth Vader's image and stature. Especially with his mask off, he doesn't remotely resemble him. Kylo Ren's mask fell victim to Rian Johnson's creative decisions, and like many things we loved before The Last Jedi, it too was destroyed. The mask gave Kylo somewhat of an idea of intimidation, and the voice demanded respect. All was lost the moment it was destroyed. In The Force Awakens, when we all saw Kylo Ren unmasked, it was a very confusing sight, as we expected to see him to have scars or something that justifies his need for it. Now, I will admit that in The Force Awakens, I was happily shocked, and here's why Kylo Ren's face reveal worked for me. Being a Lucas boy, I love symbolism, and obviously Kylo's face had a meaning. Kylo's face was to contrast his mighty exterior that he shows to people. To others, he's frightening because of his mask, but it's not who he truly is. It covers his real identity. So when his face is revealed, so is his true nature, fragile and vulnerable. He isn't that daunting, but nevertheless he is incredibly powerful. During the events of The Force Awakens, he was very conflicted too. Also, he is a descendant of the Skywalker bloodline, so just like his grandfather before him, his face was too kind until it was sealed behind a mask that would incite terror to the galaxy. That is the symbolism that I got from Kylo Ren and his mask. The reason the audience is distracted from Kylo Ren's role as villain is that the face doesn't resemble that of a dark side user, as it is established that the use of the dark side can affect the physical appearance of a user. One of the most popular instances where that happens is when Palpatine uses Force Lightning on Mace Windu. Now, he did manage to deflect some of it back to Palpatine, so he wasn't directly disfigured because of it. Where fans stopped taking Kylo Ren seriously and gave up all investment in his character arc is how it takes out Supreme Leader Snoke in the most humiliating way and becomes Supreme Leader. Speaking of humiliating, wasn't Snoke supposed to be this ultra-powerful dark-side user that was around when the Empire was founded and fell? So how did he get punked out like this? Couldn't he sense the lightsaber moving through the Force? No, come back and own this shit here, soy boy. He can bridge minds together from two sides of the galaxy in 4K Full HD with the Force, but he can't sense the deceit from his apprentice 30 feet away?
I don't know anything! Don't!
In a good versus evil story, it is a big, huge no-go to kill off the evil mastermind before the final showdown in the third chapter of the trilogy, unless the one succeeding him or her is more of a threat. Yeah, no. This is one of the biggest mistakes in The Last Jedi. But to be fair here, it may be a stupid move to kill Snoke off, and his death scene may have enraged fans because they weren't expecting this of him because he was thought to be so powerful. Partially, the fans are to blame for whipping up all the speculation and hype around Snoke. For 2 years after The Force Awakens was released, YouTube flooded with speculations and theories regarding Snoke's origins, power level, and connection to Palpatine. Some were compelling, and some were outlandishly ridiculous. Fans are the ones that started the backlash regarding Snoke's death, but in a way, his character wasn't on the same page as their fan fiction was. But in this series, we are here to analyze the literature behind Snoke's character. So, what do we have? In The Force Awakens, fans knew that Snoke was very old, so as a Force user, he must have had accumulated vast knowledge and power throughout the years. This is supposed to be the contributing factor as to why he's the evil mastermind in this trilogy, why he's so powerful, and why the good guys should be threatened by him. Snoke was just wasted, so even for Episode 9, there is very little room for his character to impact the story. I mean, Luke, yeah, he may come as a Force ghost, but Snoke? Wait, is he gonna be one too? More needless additions to Star Wars lore? Thanks for that, Ryan. With his death, there will be very little to no explanations as of who he is, so basically his character was set up only to just not matter in the end. His introduction in The Force Awakens had a sense of mystery regarding Snoke. His ridiculous death shows the audience that he was just an incompetent and useless villain. If Kylo Ren had killed Snoke, say, in the final act, even like this, of the last movie in the trilogy, when the good guys were from the brink of defeat, maybe it could work. By extension, it would serve as a redemption arc for Kylo Ren's character. After Luke, Snoke was the most anticipated character in this trilogy due to the hype and anticipation built around them, but we all know where that all went. So who's going to be the threat for Episode 9? Kylo Ren? General Hux? Porgs? Who will antagonize the Resistance now that Snoke is gone? In conclusion, Kylo Ren doesn't work as a main villain because he isn't shown to do what a traditional main villain is supposed to do. The only thing that he managed to do is kill Han Solo, and that's because Harrison Ford wanted out of Star Wars. He hesitated to blow up the Bridge of the Raddus because his mother was on there, didn't kill nearly as much as Darth Vader did in his prime, and lost to Rey twice because the plot demanded so. I'm really sorry that they wasted this character who had great potential in The Force Awakens. I guess it's more important that he hooks up with Rey rather than grow as a character to the fans. Gross. Kylo Ren doesn't incite intimidation, especially without his mask. People want to see Rey lose more than they want Kylo to do so, and that's how bad this movie is. He will always be a Vader fanboy, and unfortunately that's how he was written. Speaking of a wasted opportunity, Snoke should have been reserved for Episode 9 and been pitted against Luke in an epic climactic battle in the final act of the movie. Killing him off doesn't work because there is no character that can fill his shoes effectively. The same argument would be applied for Vader if he succeeded Palpatine as Emperor. It doesn't work because despite being an awesome villain, he's not as evil as Palpatine will ever be. What I mean by this is that the main villain's inner conflict and redemption arc is what makes them so compelling. The evil mastermind should always be irredeemably evil for evil's sake, and it wouldn't work the other way around, not in a good versus evil story. You could imagine if Sauron was disposed before the return of the king. I mean, make it a picture. Who'd take his place? Grima? Actually, it would be Gollum. That sounds like a Rian Johnson thing to do. Snoke nonetheless had a sense of majesty and mystery to him that fans couldn't wait to see what he would do in The Last Jedi. And kasplat! I'm really curious to see how JJ is going to handle Kylo Ren as Supreme Leader now. So this concludes part 4, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I want to shout out the entire Fandom Collective again for its support. Be sure to follow @Fandom Collective, without an E at the end. If you enjoyed my content and want to see more of it, please subscribe to my channel and like this video. If you also have Twitter, please consider following me @TPL723 as I enjoy interacting with people on a personal level and exchange opinions and ideas even if we disagree with each other. May the Force be with you. General Katarn, out.